Oh, hello there. Hi. I'm that guy from the internet again who's always yammering on about something. Today's fun topic is, boy, is Black History Month dumb. Is it the dumbest thing ever? I think so. It's got to be one of the dumbest things ever. Like, here's an incredibly bad idea. Let's all get behind it. Come on, we got a virtue signal, everyone. So let's infantilize these people who self-identify by this racial label. I mean, that it's like if I self-identified as black instead of as politically transracial, I'd be so fucking pissed at Black History Month and the whole concept of it. Can you imagine if they put out a tall person tolerance week? How offensive that would be. What do you mean tall person tolerance week? Do I need some kind of special treatment? What am I special? Like, or do you pity me or something? One viewer so far. It may be YouTube's not really down with promoting videos that say Black History Month is dumb, since they have BHM on their logo now on YouTube. So there's only one person here, two people now, 2 minutes in. I would guess that YouTube doesn't like this video, you know? People don't like it when you tell them Black History Month is dumb. It is. It's incredibly dumb and offensive. But people think it's the opposite or something. Hey, Andre Z. Happy Black History Month. What are you doing to celebrate Black History Month? Are you learning about George Washington Carver, the inventor of peanut butter, who proved that even black people can do things important? or how else are you celebrating this incredibly offensive, imperialistic, condescending expression of contempt for otherness that is Black History Month? No protesting and rioting in the streets. You're supposed to make a book report on George Washington Carver. Everybody knows that. He invented peanut butter and stoplights. He was a great figure in Black history. Along with Frederick Douglass. You remember him. He was really important in Black history. Fortunately, he's only important in Black history. So, I didn't need to learn about him because at the time I wasn't self-identifying as Black. He's not important to history in general. Just to Black history. They get their own little special history because, we feel so bad for them. Wouldn't you hate to be part of that group? Who wouldn't despise being part of that group and being treated like that? If you self-identify as part of that group, any sane person who self-identifies as Black must absolutely fucking despise Black History Month. Look at this. 5 minutes in, 2 people here. Because the title is BHM is dumb. Because YouTube does not want that message right now. Is my suspicion on that. YouTube's not a fan of that message. The truth hurts, YouTube. Black History Month is dumb and condescending. At least 2 people here besides me get to hear this truth. Thanks to you not advertising my live stream because it says Black History Month is dumb. You know that's why, YouTube. Don't lie. Don't lie, you lying YouTube. Unbelievable. Like, how am I going to have this live stream if nobody's saying anything except Andre Z? Andre Z, you need to really start saying a lot of shit now because you have to make up for all the other people that aren't here. It's your moral duty. It's not really your moral duty. It's more like your dog duty. I'll be called a white supremacist and racist? By who? No sane person would call me that. I mean, people who support Black History Month are definitely racists. They're condescending racist assholes. There's no doubt about that. I'm not a white supremacist or a racist at all. I'm just a person who realizes that Black History Month is incredibly condescending and racist and stupid. Right? Because nobody who's Black today experienced that history, right? So it's not like we're trying to right or wrong. It's been righted. Now, it makes sense that we should include the honest truth about race in America, which is that it's a lie created to justify rights violations. That's what we should teach people. Oh, I am allowed to have an opinion. The thing is, I'm the identitarian's worst nightmare. Because what I'm saying makes way more sense than what they're saying, right? It is true that Black History Month is incredibly condescending and racist and offensive. And that's the truth of the matter. That no self-respecting Black person, a self-identifying Black person, likes Black History Month. Just like no person with Indian heritage actually objected to the Apu thing, right? It's just this virtue signaling party. Of course, the thing is, the virtue signaling is actually wickedness couched in virtue's clothing, because it supports the same lie that supports slavery and other things, the same lie that supports rights violations of all sorts, the same lie that generates injustice by saying that these people, whatever they are different because they're of this group and therefore get to be treated differently. That's the source of the evil. So why, you can engage in that as much as you want. It's always going to be evil, no matter how pretty the clothes are you put on it. Never going to be anything but evil, right? No matter how pretty you dress it up, you can't turn a sow's ear into a silk purse. And Black History Month is a terribly offensive, racist, condescending attempt to reinforce the basic notion that Black people need to be treated different and special. Because why? Because they don't get to be treated like people first? They got to be Black first? It contributes to the offensive and ridiculous notion that things that occur in Black history are not part of history in general, but instead have to have their own special category. Because after all, it's not important. It's just Black history, right? When I am African American, when I self-identify as African American or black in some other capacity, such as Congolese or whatever, I'm really offended by Black History Month, which is why I generally spend all of February not black. That way I get less offended by it. And I don't think they have Green History Month yet. Now, if in fact Black History Month were about the color black, so in other words, it was all about the history of the color black and not about race at all, then I would be in favor of Black History Month. And I would agree with Winston's mom that at that point you could make the good argument that you should have a month for every color. And you learn the history of that color during that month. So nobody ever learns the history of orange because it's August and everyone's on vacation. Maybe the colors can alternate months, you know. And you'll always have that controversy. Should we include magenta? The answer is no, probably not. Probably shouldn't include magenta. It's not really a full blast color in and of itself. It's more of a variant on an existing color. Oh, you're pale white and self-identify as black? Well, that's fine, you know, because race is arbitrary. So you can self-identify as whatever you want. And Andre Z, I'm guessing you're pretty offended by this attempt to narratively reduce you called Black History Month. You're allowed to what? You're allowed to be offended? You're allowed to be offended either way. I mean, I think people of all races who are smart are offended by the idea of Black History Month. Is there a gay pride month as well? Ridiculous. Again, for the same reasons that Black History Month is ridiculous. It's condescending and it otherizes individuals by making them first and foremost part of their group, you know? Yeah, you're totally allowed to self-identify as black, Andre Z. I mean, I self-identify as fluidly transracial. You once owned a transportation company with the word pride in it. What was it called? Straight Pride. We ain't nothing but pride. We're straight pride. But it was misinterpreted as an anti-gay company and lost business accordingly. I mean, all you have to do is test this notion. So this is, you know, Pride Month or whatever it is, Black History Month or anything like that. That's the work of an analyst, somebody who's got a metaphysical function first and a physical function second. So they say, I am upholding a universal frame of reference that's good. In other words, that people shouldn't be treated unfairly or unjustly, that racism is bad, etc. Right? But then they don't apply that universal frame to their own particularist instance at all. They don't test it universally. They don't say, well, is this a good way to uphold that universal frame in general, setting aside a month or a week or whatever? Is that a good way? What are the narrative implications of that? They don't do that part. This is why I get frustrated with analysts. No offense, INTJs out there. I get a little frustrated with you sometimes for the same reason. It's only okay, not if it successfully upholds the universal frame in this instance. It's only okay when it successfully upholds the universal frame in all instances. Otherwise, it doesn't work as a precedent-setting rule. This is something analysts don't get. You know, that's why we have stupid-ass shit like Black History Month. Well, but we're upholding a good virtue. You idiots! The thing you're doing is exemplifying the vice you're trying to oppose. Well, people may have that response as much as they want, but not all people have that response. I have this response. And the difference between the people who have that response and the people who have my response is I will always win the argument. They will always lose. I will always go on the attack and accuse them of being the wicked, worthless scumbags that they are, you know? Of being the wicked, racist, reductive, condescending scumbags that they are. And watch them scramble in fear, you know? They're accustomed to when they attack, people defend. That's how you empower analysts. When analysts attack, if you defend, you are just empowering the analysts. Because the correct response to analyst wrongness is always meta-analysis. You got to be like, no, you're fundamentally failing to do your job here. It is inadequate to say that it upholds the universal in this particular instance. You need to show that it upholds universally, or else you're setting bad precedent. And that's how you got to just lay straight into them and make them understand that no. I'm not going to accept your wrongness as a winning argument. No one should ever have to do that again. Okay? It's like one of the worst things that ever happens in the world is when somebody has a bad argument and it's winning. So that's part of why I exist in the world. Never should a bad argument win. You're nice to people you like. That's a small number of people too, Winston's mom. It's a small handful, okay? You're nice to a small handful of people, you INTJs. I appreciate that. And at least you typically aren't the ones to initiate incredibly stupid ideas like Black History Month. That's got to be an ENFP came up with that. You know. We'll give those poor Black people a whole month. Because we're not racist. We like diversity. That's right. We highlight how different you are and set you aside in a special brown group. Right? I mean, okay, what's the brownest month we got? So we got gold, silver, bronze months here. We got platinum. Okay, all these months. What's the brownest month there is? What's the shortest one? February? All right. Look, we don't have anything better for that. So let's throw them a bone, those poor Black people, and give them a month about their history, even though it doesn't matter in terms of real history. It's not real history, you know. It's like if you study real history, you skip over the Black stuff because it's not important, right? And, you know, so that's why we got to give them a special month. You know, how offensive is that? That's what Black History Month is. And I spent the morning going, what the fuck is this BHM thing? Did YouTube get bought by some BHM company or something? What is BHM? Rachel finally told me, no, it stands for Black History Month. I said, you gotta be fucking kidding me. You have got to be fucking kidding me. Why are people tolerating this rampant racist bullshit? Winston's mom, every month is Host Eric month. God damn it. Every day is Host Eric day. Every minute is Host Eric minute. 24/7, 365. Except in sleepy weeks. See, that makes a lot more sense because I'm just one guy, right? I don't represent a class of thing that you can confer meaning onto others with. I'm just one guy. If you have Host Eric month, well, that makes a lot of sense, you know? People need more than a month to watch all my videos, I'm sure. So I should probably have Host Eric 2 months, at least. I mean, the point being, it's about me, so it's not a way that you can confer meaning onto other individuals based on your perceptions of their group, which is what Black History Month is, right? The way that you, whoever you are, get to confer meaning on other individuals by assuming they're part of a group that you've defined as oppressed. I mean, talk about scummy shit, right? Talk about someone letting their feelings allow them to turn into a scumbag. This is how you should approach this thing. You fucking scumbags. Not with like, no, I'm just saying, all soft and gentle and defensive. The people who put BHM up on YouTube next to it are fucking racist scumbags. You know? It doesn't matter what it allows you to do. What I'm saying is, here's what it means to have done what we have done. Not here's what's going to happen, right? I don't need to show you that it's going to have bad outcomes. I can simply point out that it's an inherently bad process to confer meaning onto individuals based on your perceptions of their group when that group is arbitrarily distinct from other groups. And that's sort of axiomatically so. There's no reason to provide any other information. There's no other information necessary for us to know that therefore that is wicked. Utility doesn't come into the matter, you know? If we address those kind of utilitarian questions, we're allowing ourselves to be frameworked into the wrong kind of thinking. It doesn't matter. That's just more of the problem, right? That's just more of the problem. To say, oh, Black History Month is a problem because it allows people to get away with more racism against white people. No, you're just doing the same fucking thing again. The problem with it is fundamentally, it's a wrong process. It's a wrong process to allow your perceptions of a group that's arbitrarily distinct from other groups to permit you to confer your own meaning about their identity onto them based on your arbitrary understandings of what the group is, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. You have to treat individuals like individuals. You have to afford them the right to be an individual first and foremost. What if the word wrong is wrong? The word wrong is not wrong. It's simply, as I've discussed plenty of times before, the things that are conditionally true are absolutely true or tautologically true, depending on how they play out. But that's only the case within the frame that the language is used. It's not the case that those same terms can't be redefined for some other argument. So it's the difference between absolute relativism and relative absolutism. So, good thinking is relatively absolute and not absolutely relative. Bad thinking, when it comes to public policy, is absolutely relative. It says, well, it's going to help with this problem that we have. It's going to solve this problem. Well, you have to look a lot bigger picture than that, right? And the problem with utilitarian calculi is they don't factor in the realities of human capacity. So the ability of humans to predict the outcomes of injected action into complex chaotic systems is very limited. TE people have a heuristic that assumes that they can predict better than 50% or something. And they're consistently upheld in that because they only count the impacts they want to count. They don't count the unintended impacts, and they don't count the negative impacts that don't matter to them. That's why TE is fundamentally a subjective frame. So analysts are really the problem in terms of the narrative landscape, right? Executors are likely to just simply echo analysts' talk. The analysts, your ENFPs, INTJs, ESFJs, and ISTPs are likely to have strong opinions about this, about random stuff, voice those opinions. And executors and executives are likely to simply echo those opinions because they assume a particularist frame of reference and try to apply it as a universal, test it universally, right? So, they don't tend to question the frame of reference itself, and that's the problem. The fuck is this? The fuck is what? The fuck is your mom's face? Really? I did not know that. Your mom's face is the fuck, huh? The neighborhood hole. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Sai Hatong Boon Cam? Yeah, utilitarianism is a TE frame of reference, the TEFI frame of reference. And TIFE frame of reference is deontological, basically. So it says, hey, we need these things to universally justify. Don't be talking shit about wheat, Diamond. That's what I use to make my bread. Nobody's allowed to talk shit about wheat around here, okay? Which has metaphysical tool executives. So if you think about an executive, like when I become president, it's going to be my job to fill the role I have, not to question the legitimacy of that role. Now, I have a clear understanding of what that role ought to be, which means I'm going to constrain the power of the office somewhat. I intend to walk back the capacity of the executive to make arbitrary unilateral decisions about things that the executive order has permitted. So I'm going to attempt to walk that back with the Justice Department. But what I'm saying is my job then is to say, let's say I believe killing in general is wrong. Well, to be president, you have to understand that you have to be willing to kill. There may be circumstances that require me to kill in the interest of the country, and or to order killing done, not do it myself, obviously. But and so it's like, in that sense, I have to be an executive. I can't spend my time just challenging the frame of reference of the office itself, saying, well, what should this office really do? I have to fulfill the job of the office, be the executive. So executives then, they have that clarity about their frame, and then they test what they do within that frame against universals. So they're less likely, in some sense, to recommend boldly bad things, as analysts are. And then you've got your executors who don't universalize either in the frame or in the testing of it. So it's like, you got your ESA. What happens if you get an ESFP as president? Well, he's particularist in his frame. In other words, and his frame is not the office of the president. It's what he thinks the country ought to be or whatever, And he's particularist in his testing. So if the argument that we can't do this, it has no limiting principle, works in this instance, he'll use it, even though he applies that rule not at all in making determinations of things. In other words, he only applies the rule when it serves his purpose. So I would agree with you, David Sanderson, that TI users are better at knowing what makes good public policy. TE users are better at getting bad public policy put through. It's always a crapshoot as to whether good mother or bad mother is going to show up around here. Fortunately, this time it was good mother. When bad mother comes, boy, the neglect and abuse really get tiresome. Bill Clinton was not an ESFP. Bill Clinton was an ENFJ. I don't know who thinks, Winston's mom asked if Bill Clinton was an ESFP. No, Bill Clinton's an ENFJ. And shows just how effective an ENFJ can be at president. I thought he was a very effective president. If you're objectively evaluating presidents, you have to objectively evaluate Clinton as a highly successful president by any standard, by any historian standard, Oh, I've been very fortunate, good mother. I had a very good mother myself, and my daughter had a bad biological mother, but she had a good mother who was primarily her mother. Like her biological mother, she didn't see much of her really, but she still has problems with her. She sees it in that. Delilah's biological mother, after she was born, didn't take very long. Basically after she was weaned, she started cheating on me. And then with her teacher at the community college. And then obviously we got divorced, but by the age of 3, Delilah had Candace active in her life. And Candace was an ESFJ who was very, very interested in being a mother. And also turned out to be infertile. So I kind of feel good about the fact that worked out the way it did. It's like Candace got to raise a child, be a mother, talk about her daughter Delilah now as an older ESFJ and stuff, and show her off and everything. And that was the case even though she was infertile. So I feel pleased that worked out for her like that. And of course, Delilah had a good father. I always loved her so much. I wasn't always a good father, but I always made clear to her I was never abusive at all. I might have been neglectful on a few occasions. I had my own issues, It's like I was a drunk for a lot of her childhood, and that was my bad. But Delilah came out really, really good. I'm happy, and she and I have we have as close a relationship as 2 FI polar people can. Anyway, yeah, I had a very good mother. I was actually in the bath earlier today, taking a really hot bath, and I was thinking about the eulogy that I'll eventually give at my mother's funeral. It's funny to sort of shift from a conditional, like a eulogy that I would give if my mother were to die, to a like ticking clock kind of the eulogy I will give when my mother dies, because she's no longer with us in terms of her personality, she can't talk or feed herself or change herself or anything. She's really far along in dementia, but but she's still alive, it's so weird. As somebody who's being part of it now, it's a tricky thing because I find myself almost wishing she would die so I could mourn her properly. You know, like instead of getting to mourn her properly, I've had to let her go, disappear from my life, basically. Even way more so than I otherwise would have because of all this COVID stuff. And yet, there's never been a ceremony of transition, right? A funeral. I think people really need those ceremonies of transition so they can have closure. Interestingly, I heard something on the radio one time where they're talking to a British person. I think it was a British person. And he said, this very interesting American notion of closure. Like, is that an American notion? Closure? Is that not something that I guess maybe you can sort of look at the politics of Europe and the politics of the Middle East and say, what is lacking in all of these conflicts, these never-ending conflicts, is closure. You thought BHM meant big, handsome male? You learned a lot today. BHM means incredibly bad idea. It sounds horrible. It shows how life can be cruel. Well, the thing is, life's not been cruel to me at all. Life's been... my life was set on easy mode, by and large. To the extent that I've had a lot of difficulties in life, and I have had a fair amount of them, they're self-inflicted. And there's no childhood trauma to blame. There's nothing to blame except me, being how I am. Which probably explains why I burst into tears when I first read Type Description of being an ENTP. Because it was like, oh, that's what's wrong with me, which also explains why I burst into tears when someone told me finally, my ex-AA sponsor at the time, he was already my ex-sponsor for a good year or something, when he told me, well, that's fine. So far, Good Mother hasn't done anything trolly, and I'm actually talking about the subject. This is the thing that trolls don't get, and that sometimes people that aren't trolls don't get, is it's a very huge challenge if you are a troll and you come in dishonestly representing yourself and talking about something honest, and I engage it honestly. If I engage it at all, it's probably because it's an interesting topic. What I'm saying when I'm honestly engaging it is worth saying. Whether it's prompted by somebody whose intentions are good or bad is another question. And it sounds to me, Ghostwriter, like maybe Good Mother's not a troll, but rather somebody that you didn't like the way they interacted with somebody else. What's Richard Grannon's drama? Now I want to know, though. I want to know what Richard Grannon's drama is. Okay, well, I want to know. Tell me what. First of all, what Richard Grannon's drama is. Who's Richard Grannon? Is he Richard Simmons' grandma? Is that possible? So yeah, when my sponsor, XAA sponsor, finally said there's nothing wrong with you, that's another occasion when I sort of burst into tears. And this is via text. He wasn't talking to me in person. But okay. You know about Jeff Gannon's problems? Well, tell me about Jeff Gannon's problems. Well, yeah, it's one of the general topics that's covered here. Is that Black History Month is incredibly dumb, condescending, offensive, and racist. And the people who think the opposite are stupid and don't get it. That's my basic point. So if you're one of those people who thinks the opposite and you're here, you probably go, oh, Eric's called me stupid again. And I wonder why I put up with this for so long. How does it even feel having that bipolar? Wow, SSJSN Jutsu, you just witnessed it. It's pretty spectacular. It's okay, what is this stuff about Jeff Gannon? Or whoever Gannon. Yeah, the rule of gossip is all mentioned gossip topics must be explained. I agree, Board Chariot. That's going to be an axiom around here, okay? If you start talking about gossip, you have to explain it all. Because everybody loves gossip. I like my gossip. I like my gossip down. I like my gossip any way I can get it. I'm not picking on a mentally ill person. I don't know who is mentally ill. Who am I picking on? Or are you talking to her, good mother, or him, or whatever? You say good mother is picking on a mentally ill person? Well, don't pick on mentally ill people, good mother. Look, the thing is, you've got to be subject to that critique. That's the thing. I can be really mean sometimes too. And when people point it out to me, I feel bad. So if you feel a sense of smug satisfaction at causing others pain, then that means you're being spiteful. And spite is bad. It's sort of inherently bad. Booty hole meat. Booty hole meat. Ew. Who keeps meat in their booty hole? Okay, well, good mother, that very well may be the case. That something needs to be addressed. That it is the case is a fair enough argument to make that there are occasions when people behave in such an appalling fashion that the only appropriate response is to be appalled by it, and to voice that outrage. However, it's a matter of, it's really a matter of how you feel about the process. I mean, my point, Jacob Robson, would be that if I were to self-identify as Black, which I don't during February because it makes me feel too angry, I'd be super offended by this condescending special brown group designation that the society as a whole is purporting to afford us poor Black people who need special attention. It's like if I self-identify as Black during February, when I do, if I forget and accidentally change races in the middle of February into Black, then I get really pissed off about it. Because it's like, why are you conferring this helplessness onto me? You know? You use Richard Grandin's work for self-help. What's Richard Grandin's self-help messages? I want to hear them. I was thinking, I mean, I think reputation destruction is unisex. I've had people of both genders try to destroy my reputation. You know? But listen, Ghostwriter, stop trying to just. I get what your characterization of good mother is. Okay, I get it. I understand what you're saying. You're characterizing this individual as, and I just let me do what I do. Ask some questions and come to my own conclusions. Okay, just chill for a second. Are you directing that to me, Nagay Hickman, or to somebody else? So I would hope it would get more views than the Florian Marcus's Albanian Pilsy hats thing. But yeah, it really does just make no sense. And anybody who's both intelligent and self-identifies as Black probably at best rolls their eyes at it, and at worst finds it deeply offensive. You know, because it's sort of like, why do I have to be part of this like victimized group, you know? Well, sure, it's racist because you're saying that a specific group. But see, the reason you haven't heard me make that argument yet is because the response to that is, look, there's a long history of group singling out, and it's caused there to be an inequity that can only be solved with a counterbalancing group singling out. So that's why I wouldn't use the argument that it's racist simply because you're singling out a specific group. Instead, I attack the argument from the other angle and say, if I were a member of this group, I'd be deeply offended by your racist month. And the reason is because it's conferring onto me all these statuses. And I point out the various ways that it's condescending and offensive, right? To me as a hypothetical self-identifying Black person. That's a much stronger way to argue it, right? I mean, you don't do anything if you're not in school. I mean, this is what you do. You see BHM next to YouTube and wonder if YouTube got bought out by a company called BHM for part of the morning until Rachel explains that it stands for Black History Month. The thing to remember is there's nothing wrong with social justice per se. Social justice is something we all want to see attained. The problem is the term justice has been co-opted by people who are identitarians. Social justice is good. Groupism is bad. Social justice, therefore, does not get attained via groupist distinctions. Serious question. Once I chewed peanuts for too long and they turned too much, did I violate copyright law? Like, what do you mean? If you're talking about, like, does making peanut butter violate someone's copyright? No, because recipes can't be copyrighted or patented. And 2, no, because you wouldn't be making it for sale. You'd just be making it for your own consumption in your mouth. Good question, Coffin Gas. BHM is Black History Month. I asked that same question all morning long before Rachel figured it out. I was like, what is BHM? And it turns out it's Black History Month. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe the culture as a whole is allowing this kind of incredibly condescending, racist, reductionary bullshit to a whole, say, everyone who self-identifies as Black, here, let's condescend to you. I mean, how is it that society is okay with that? Oh, you're talking about George Washington Carver. That famous Black guy who proves that Black people too even were important. Before we get back to the important history, we've got a month set aside for stuff that's not quite up to par to make it into real history. So it has a designation that we do a little bit of that because just at the tip of the cap to you guys for all your slavery and everything. Can you imagine that just how wicked and evil and wrong the person who came up with this was? Now, they probably thought completely that they were doing a good thing. And yet, what were they actually doing is insulting every human being who's ever self-identified as Black. So, it's like people go, well, Eric, you got to watch out these days. People are going to police your opinions. Fuck that. I'm going to police theirs. They're the ones who are racist fucks, not me. People who support Black History Month obviously think Black people are infants who need their special little attention. Oh, you poor Black people. Black History Month is just racist? For me, personally? That is so crazy. What a crazy notion. I oppose condescending to a whole group of people and saying, oh, we're going to reduce you to this. And you're calling me racist. So, do you support Black History Month, Xavier? Are you one of those racist scumbags who supports Black History Month? Are you one of those racist fucks? I'm fluidly transracial, Xavier. I've been Black plenty of times. I avoid being African American or Black during February because I get so outraged when I am. The distinction is arbitrary. Whether or not a person is Black, that there's no way to establish meaningfully that there's any objective category called Black. I tend to not be Black during traffic stops as well. Although these days it actually helps because the cops are so race shy that if you tell them when you pull them over, by the way, I'm African American today, you're actually have a lower chance of being shot now. That's how outraged everybody's gotten about them shooting so many Black people. So it's good. The thing is, yes, it was always a big problem that cops shot a lot of people. I've been bitching about it for years before anybody ever heard of police violence being a big problem, police killing people, Black Lives Matter, anything like that. I was a strong and staunch advocate about this matter, saying there are cops out there getting away with murder and their justifications for it are bullshit. And they're getting away with it time and time and time again. And One of the cases that was particularly offensive to me was a case where 2 cops beat to death a homeless man in Orange County and got away with it scot-free. That preceded all this Black Lives Matter stuff. That case did. I'm trying to think of some other cases that preceded it that I was furious about, so I can give you examples. But regardless, the point is, I used to rant about this shit on Facebook, and nobody paid me any fucking attention at all. And then all of a sudden, the whole BLM movement, right? Which did what? I mean, BLM is the best, is the cops' wet dream. BLM is the cops' wet dream. Because it doesn't matter what BLM is advocating for, defund the cops or whatever, that's never going to fly long term. What they are going to get, though, Black Lives Matter is going to get the frame they want, because that serves the cops' interest perfectly. See, the problem isn't that the cops are killing people, it's that they're racist. Because the good thing about people, when the problem is racism, you can solve that with more training. If the problem were the cops are killing people, then why we'd have to do something about it. Right? So this is why race always ends up being racist. When you put black in front of History Month, it turns into a racist month. It turns into a racist idea. Because one way or another, you're trying to tell me who I am based on an arbitrary distinction. So, where's beautiful Rachel? Tiny Man 66 asks. She's asleep. She went to bed. Well, I don't know if she's asleep. She's in bed. She may be awake, but if she is awake, she's not watching this, or she'd probably chime in. So she's probably not awake, because if she were awake, she'd probably watch this. It's a lot of times, most of the time, even maybe, if Rachel isn't around for a live stream, she will independently choose to watch or listen to it as her preferred media while she's taking a bath or something. I've walked in on her listening to live streams that she wasn't around for on multiple occasions. She genuinely seems to like my media, which is nice. In other words, even though she's my girlfriend and spends all this time with me, she still listens to my live streams. That's a girl who really likes you a lot, you know? It's like, I also do not group all of the police as bad people. I do agree that the police killing people was a serious problem. The police had decided these set of protocols regarding use of force that basically boiled down to, if you don't instantly obey all of our orders, we can shoot you. And that's how it was playing out, you know? So it was very unacceptable state of affairs. It was a terribly unacceptable state of affairs. Do you like the amount of people who attend the streams now, or do you prefer larger audiences? I would prefer it to be, you know, I'll tell you when it's too many. You know, I've yet to get there. I have yet to get to the spot where I have too many people and I feel like overwhelmed by the amount of meow and the meow. So the thing is, I've had plenty of good interactions with police officers. I've had a couple of bad interactions with police officers. I get the fact that police officers tend to be rather brusque and authoritative in their approach to things, in a way that can be off-putting to people who don't feel like being intimidated. Cops generally don't try to intimidate me, but but I have been pushed. I've been butt of the gun pushed by one. But not all group distinctions are inherently harmful. There are group distinctions where you can legitimately make a distinction. So if you want to say, what 23andMe are you? Then you could talk about ancestry in a more meaningful way. Well, I'm 23% from this part of Sicily and 14% from and this is in my ancestry, right? That's, in my opinion, a much more meaningful way to talk about your ancestry, because it makes it increasingly ridiculous to try to think that you can determine anything from that, right? Like, for example, no, I'm not saying that cops are always cool. I'm not saying that there aren't problems with police and stuff, but I'm also saying they have a difficult job, and they deal with a lot of people who are a lot less reasonable than you, Alex Rodriguez. You're making a good point, and of course, you always do have some cops out there who like to bust types they don't like for little shit. That's one of the big problems with victimless crime. Victimless crime promotes arbitrary policing. So when you have drug enforcement, a cop who sees some kids from a nice neighborhood who are in the park, and look like not gangsters at all, but like college-bound kids, and they've got some drugs, and he lets them go, but then doesn't let go somebody who looks more dangerous to the cop, right? That's what I mean by arbitrary policing, discretionary policing. And as soon as you get discretionary policing, you're going to get discriminatory policing, unavoidably. They're going to discriminate. It may not be race. It may just be like they let chicks go, but they don't let dudes go. Or they let dudes go, but they don't let chicks go. Or they let tall people go, but they don't let short people go. Or they let short people go, but they don't let tall people go. It's like, it could be anything, but it's necessarily going to be discriminatory as soon as it's discretionary. The reason it's discretionary is because if I'm a cop and I pull somebody over and they've got some cocaine, if I confiscate the cocaine and let them go, then they're not going to complain to anybody that the cops stole their cocaine. Who are they going to complain to? The cops? So you had some cocaine, you're saying? Yes, and the cop stole it from me. So you're saying the cop confiscated the cocaine from you and didn't arrest you, and now you're coming to complain about it? Well, yes, I am, because this comprises discretionary policing and is exemplary of corruption, and is a much more significant problem than me having drugs. Well, I mean, I suspect that in general, probably cops do let chicks go at a higher rate. Okay, so Ghostwriter, good mother is of the leaf trimmer school of thought, is my basic takeaway here. And we'll work on him, okay? We'll work on him. He has, the problem is, shoulder chip fusion syndrome. We're going to try to chisel that chip away. If it's impossible and he proves to be too abrasive in his anti-womanness, then we do what we got to do. So, what's leaf trimmer? He's somebody who thinks like you do. You're mad at chicks, right? You're mad at chicks because they have these advantages, and men get screwed in divorces and custody cases and stuff like that. I mean, the thing is, I've had 2 marriages. Neither of the divorces cost me anything. I got more or less full custody of my kid. I haven't had any of those experiences myself. I really like chicks. I much prefer having chicks around than not having chicks around. And talking about how shitty chicks are is a good way to drive chicks away. So I don't know what to tell you. It's not just a race issue that needs to be solved on the level of race. We can think about the bigger picture. True that, David Sanderson. The bigger picture is fuck your racial identity. Basically. That's the bigger picture. Fuck you for having a racial identity. Why? What are you appealing to? My great-grandfather came from there, whereas your great-grandfather came from there. Oh, that's relevant to anything. You're just dumb. Yeah. Oh, you're a chick? Oh my God. I totally thought you were an anti-chick dude. Well, go to show you what my intuition is. I stand defeated by my own hand once again, lying bloody at the feet of Good Mother. You're a chick? Are you an anti-chick chick? Why would you be anti-chick, though? She's a middle-aged anti-chick chick? Does it just mean you like to be super submissive and stuff like that? I agree. I mean, I had a terrible relationship, my last one prior to this one, but and I had a terrible first marriage. But my second marriage was pretty damn good, ended peacefully. Neither of us betrayed each other. We both filled our roles as we understood them to be, and we each understood the other's understanding of our roles the same way, so it worked out fine. When we got divorced, it was fine. I didn't really care. I thought she was making a mistake, which I still think she made a mistake, but it was fine for me. And she did try to get some money from me, but that lasted about a day because I said, and why do you think I owe you money? Well, because we go to court. Okay. I'm asking you to morally justify why I should give you money. If you can successfully show me that I have some sort of moral obligation to give you money, I will give you money, and the court doesn't have to tell me anything. So all you need to do is show that it's right for me to give you money, that I have an obligation to do so. And of course, she didn't like that at all because she's anti-polar, you know. Apparently, she actually talked to a lawyer, but I made a video at that time in which I articulated all this shit in the video. She showed the lawyer, and the lawyer was like, don't bother. Most of the time I'd say you've got a case, but not here. Well, okay. I mean, like I said in the premiere chat on that, I don't feel especially confident about that INTP typing. I don't know quite what to make of him. Possibly ISFJ would have been the best typing I could have given him. I don't know why I didn't really think of that. Based on the data I had. But of course, it's really difficult when he doesn't speak English very well, you know? And of course, if in fact, you know, because there was another brother who was coming in there who said he's faking it, right? If he was trying to game it, then more likely he's not an INTP. If he was trying to game it as an ISTJ, he still didn't really seem like an ISTJ to me. Maybe ISFJ would have been a better typing form, except, you know, I was somewhat moved by the physicality of him. The way he squirmed around and shit was very NTP-ish. Because there's different kinds of squirming for different types of people, right? I do a lot of this shit too. Like put your hand on your face, and he's doing that the whole time, you know? So, but he didn't seem to be copying me when I was doing it. He seemed to be not aware of it. That would seem to suggest FE fourth. Was he an ISTP? Well, no. I just no, he wasn't an ISTP. So I guess INTP is the best typing based on the data I had, but I am not particularly convinced it's correct because it was really challenging because he didn't speak English very well. He spoke English about as poorly as anybody I've typed. If you speak English much more poorly than that, I literally can't type you. Why do a lot of ISFJs think they are INTPs? I don't know if that's the case, but ISFJs tend to sort of jump at the chance to show their ability to solve little puzzles and stuff and get excited when they succeed and feel like, hey, I got a chance to compete in this. They're about the same quality level as maybe 8th slot or 6th or even 4th sometimes, but they've got a different attitude towards it, a certain enthusiasm about it. That I didn't see in him. He was challenging one to type. I don't know. I'm not sure. I didn't see any indication of FI, but if he were an SFP, ESFP, he might. I mean, he could be an ESFP. ESFPs both have the lack of frame sense to want to fake it the whole time, and the lack of application sense to stick to that bad plan throughout the whole thing. So, I mean, it's like, it is conceivable he was an ESFP. I think his TI answers were too weak for INTP, even given the language barrier, probably. But I don't know what to type him. It was a slog, you know. It was a challenging typing. It wasn't a fun typing because I was being denied meaningful data at every turn. You think a lot of people confuse their 3rd slot for their lead function? Well, they're both absolute values. It would be the reason why. And the absolute value that you sort of more consciously recognize as most important to you is attained in your 3rd slot function. Although usually it takes a certain amount of maturity to recognize that that's important to you. It depends. You know, it's like it also depends on how the thing sounds. So FE is not something that it sounds good to acknowledge that you value a lot. To say, I value other people's opinions a lot. No, I do care what people think a lot. That's fine. It is not a popular opinion. In fact, if you ask someone, how important is it to you what other people think? They're going to err on the side of less important rather than more. Right. My mom did a lot of puzzles and stuff, Sudoku and crossword puzzles and things like that, She's an ISFJ. So probably the best type for that guy was ISFJ, really. But I don't know. I didn't see any enthusiasm for the puzzles, but then again, it was really hard to communicate with him, I did the best I could. I earned my $100. Put it that way. I definitely earned it because whether or not I was correct, I genuinely put my best effort into solving a case that didn't afford me the opportunity to have enough evidence. I agree with you, Stephanie Le, although it does depend somewhat on the ISFJ. So, for example, my ex Kimberly was an ISFJ with comparatively weak third slot TI to Jewel, another ISFJ member of the community, whose TI was comparatively strong versus Kimberly's. It was part of the reason why I mistyped Kimberly as the ESFJ in the first place. I have since come to understand that there are 3 things you can tell with TI questions. This person is definitely 1-2. This person is definitely 7, or basically indeterminate. So normally I would have said, normally that indeterminate category includes 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. But with that guy yesterday, I would say, or whenever that was, earlier today, I guess, that indeterminate means broadly indeterminate, because I couldn't tell how much of his TI struggles were TI struggles and how much of them were language struggles. It's a fishing line stream title. What do you mean a fishing line stream title? I'm not fishing for anything with this title except a special love and heart, a special trust and joy and glory for Okay? Someone who can't pick their battles is an idiot. Someone who can pick their battles is a genius, I say, dramatically. Objective personality claims whatever comes after that beginning of the sentence, you should ignore. To put it bluntly, even if it were to happen to be correct, it would be correct for the wrong reasons, so you should still ignore it. What does ISFJ mean? ISFJ means home. ISFJ means food. ISFJ means love. ISFJ means pets. ISFJ means reading a newspaper. ISFJ means enjoying your cup of coffee while watching Masterpiece Theater. ISFJ means family. ISFJ. That's my poem called ISFJ. What would you guys do if you were told you'll die in about 5 months? I'd say, of what? I'm perfectly healthy. How did how did polar TI answer TI questions? If I ask my roommate, there are 3 lamps in a fan and 4 fans in a perfume, how many lamps are in a perfume? And she said, why are there lamps in a perfume? That's how TI Polar answers your question. Yeah, right. Why? But there aren't lamps in perfume. Something like that, right? What is in my hand? It's a lighter. Yeah, it's a lighter that is in my hand. That is in my hand. It's a lighter. Yeah, and it's in my hand. Can I explain why BHM is dumb? Well, because any smart person who self-identifies as Black is going to find it deeply offensive, condescending, reductionary, and belittling. After all, it says essentially that the dominant culture does not include you, but rather affords you this special table over here, the kids' table called February, because you're not important enough to include in history in general. So it's very offensive and racist to anybody who chooses to self-identify as a race, which in and of itself is a stupid thing to do. Unless, of course, you, like me, are fluidly transracial. And the thing is, being fluidly transracial, I know now from enough Februaries not to be Black during February. Because as soon as I turn Black in February, I get absolutely livid at this ridiculous bullshit that's being perpetrated as somehow anti-racist when it's totally racist. So that's why I avoid being Black during February. March 1st, well, I get my Black on. Usually for 3 or 4 days. What does that mean? I just means I'm same as always, except I'm Black. But doesn't it mean you like, no, I'm just same as I always am, except now I'm Black. That's the difference. Like, so the only difference it really makes is like what I get offended by. So, when I am, for example, an Inuit, I get deeply offended by Eskimo pies, and I can't eat them. That's why whenever I go to buy an Eskimo pie, naturally, I change race before I go and buy them, so I don't get so angry. Well, okay, there is one race that comes with something different. So the one race that comes with something behaviorally is different is when I turn Chinese, I automatically get karate. I've had a number of people tell me karate is Japanese, but of course they're not Chinese, so how would they know? I'm Chinese, so they're being racist. Looking for more INTJ females? Oh, are you a sassy INTJ female? Oh, no wonder. Well, I mean, it's because I can't poll everybody, David Sorensen. I can't poll everybody. That's why. Because it is the case that my arbitrary racial self-identification exists concurrently with your non-impacted understanding of race. Those things exist concurrently. So it's a bad idea to both self-identify as a race, unless you're fluidly transracial like me, which is fine. But it's also a bad idea to think about other people in terms of their race. What if we said that race is a culture ethnic category? How many races are there then, Nathan Straub? How many races are there? Are Inuits their own race? Or are they the same race as Cherokee Indians? Well, you could also say BHM as a form of recognition USA is giving, right? It's like saying presidents should feel offended from President's Day. Intention is good. No, because president is an office, not an identity. Okay. So it's not it's not an arbitrary ontological claim like race. In other words, whether or not you claim you are president has nothing to do with whether you're actually president. On the other hand, whether or not you claim you are German, or if I told you I was, no, I'm not German. My ancestry is not German. It's Prussian, actually. You would just go, oh, okay. Right? I mean, you wouldn't doubt me. From what my parents say, I think my ancestry is German. That's from what my last name sounds like. It sounds like a German last name. But how would it be any different if it were Prussian or Siberian or Spanish? I'd still be exactly the same person, right? Who is gay? And why is that a problem? I don't mind calling people, I don't mind calling stuff gay in a derogatory fashion. Like, that movie's so gay is a fine thing for me to say, in my opinion. But if I'm saying a person is gay, then I should be literally saying they're gay. If I'm trying to insult them by saying that, then that is in itself is, again, groupist bullshit. So if you're saying Black History Month is gay, then fine. If you're saying he is gay, then I don't know. I'm not sure if there was a double enter, like you did the first part. I don't know what happened. You can't just be switching races because you feel like something different one second from another. I don't know. It's not because I feel different. It's because my race changes. It's, I can suppress a race for a while. So that's why I'm able to avoid being Black during Black History Month. But eventually it comes out of me irrepressibly. I can't hold in. I've been transracial since I was born. Every time I take a 23andMe test, I get different results back. But they're always 100% one race. Pretty crazy. Pretty important stuff. Let me read you a card here to give you a more serious answer, okay? I like to read the Jones cards. So, this is Jones 2015 C from a debate case that I made one time. People have different complexions, but that's a far different thing from saying that people with different complexions actually comprise races of people. Scientists have certainly tried for a long time to prove that there are different races, and it's all been disproven. It's bunk. Today, we even understand there is more genetic diversity within the so-called races than between them. The anthropologist Carol Mukhopadhyay writes about how things that we think of as demonstrating a biological basis for race are just not true. Quote, in the United States, the single cell gene is more common among African Americans and other populations, but it is not a racial gene. The genetic variation that causes it is also found in South Asia, Southern Europe, and the Middle East. It is only found in some parts of Africa. When we turn to the category Black, Africa has hundreds, if not thousands, of linguistically, culturally, politically, and historically distinct populations. Africa is home to the shortest and the tallest people of the world. Other traits vary significantly, including skin color, facial traits, nose shape, eye shape, overall body shape, even the frequency of sickle cell and lactose intolerance. The problem with Americans' folksy way of defining who's who based on skin color is that skin color is not a discrete trait. There's a spectrum, a gradation of skin color. So marking off at an arbitrary point to say someone paler than this is one thing and darker than that is not a naturally occurring division between people. Is that a good enough answer for you? No, I don't think SI users are the type that are most likely to identify with race. I think it's weak NI users, SFPs, ESFPs, ESTPs, maybe INFPs, maybe it's like, but really, I think it's going to be NI users more, because SI says my experience is who I am. It has nothing to do with these general things. Like, SI people are less likely to afford magical explanations to things than SI people are. Of course, they're also less likely to be right about universal truths than NI people are, but that also makes them less susceptible to universal wrongnesses than NI people are. Where do I fall on the political spectrum? I don't. I am a person who advocates that the biggest problem in American politics right now is the insistence on labeling and boxing individuals into members of a team, which you then know whether you oppose or support. I don't want to be associated with any team, because I'm an actual statesman who says I'm an American, first and foremost, a patriot, and I'm the most qualified person to be president. So I should become president in order to represent the interests of the country, not of any party, not of any agenda. My agenda is do what's best for the country, and I can tell you more specifically what I think that means. I'm not trying to avoid the question of what my policies are. So, in other words, I'm happy to provide information specifically about my specific policies about any specific issue. But if you want to try to articulate to me which box I fit in, the answer is boxes are for people who incorrectly go in with an agenda. My agenda is to most seriously fulfill the job of the president as it's meant to be fulfilled. Well, they may not know that quite yet, but they will soon enough. I mean, the thing is, Vermin Supreme is an example, in my opinion, of wickedness and wrongness and everything that is offensive about analysts. He thinks he's doing something good by making a mockery of our citizen democracy. He's somehow critiquing it meaningfully, the political process. I'm the exact opposite of him. I'm actually going to go in there and solve the fucking problem. It seems like almost there are so many children in this country, it's ridiculous. What economic policy do you believe works best for America? It's not a meaningful question. So, in other words, that presumes that there's some large-scale economic agenda that the president ought to support or not support. Ask me a real question. What would you like to know my stance on? For example, protectionist taxes? There are so many possible policies that go into economics that to ask a question like, what economic policy do you believe works best for America is an opportunity to say, this is how you don't ask questions. That's not an adult question. So if you want an example of an economic policy that I would support, I would strongly support eliminating or cutting as drastically as we can capital gains taxes, because capital gains are the number one means by which any individual can be upwardly mobile. Without capital gains, upward mobility is at the discretion of corporate CEOs, basically. If you don't like the idea of big corporations controlling individuals' ability to determine their own destiny, then you should strongly oppose capital gains taxes. That money's been taxed already when they earned it. They chose to invest it. They shouldn't be taxed when that investment pays off again. That's how you prevent people from moving up in class. That is so true, C.G. Jung. C.G. Jung just absolutely nailed it with that sentence right there. If it be true that there can be no metaphysics transcending human reason, it is no less true that there can be no empirical knowledge that is not already caught and limited by the a priori structure of cognition. So fucking true. Oh my God. The trueness of it is smacking me in the face like a right hand from Muhammad Ali. And I am not often super impressed by C.G. Jung quotes. That one is impressive. That's an impressive fucking quote right there. That is right on the money. Wow. Good job, Jung. That's right on the money. Black History Month's been good to you, huh, Oliver Linehand? You got 100% on your Math 324 exam. Thanks, Black History Month. Thanks to you and Oliver Linehand studying, he got 100%. Well, I don't dislike Jung. What I feel the need to do is to point out that Jung is not the authority on the matter. That Jung is the authority on the matter when he is correct, and he is not the authority of the matter when he's not. That he has a tendency to speak in metaphor, and that makes him not correct a lot of the time. So it's usually not in the broader interest for me to highlight things about Jung that are good. It's better in the broader interest for me to point out that asserting anybody as an authority on the matter because of who they are, rather than because of the words that are said, rather than asserting the words are authoritative, is a mistake. So, it's like I respect you and more than I let on in some sense, because I want to make it clear that Jung fetish is a bad idea. Jung said, I've heard, Jung said so many times from people, well, Jung said TI is subjective. Well, Jung was full of shit. That doesn't mean I don't like Jung or respect Jung. It just means Jung's just as susceptible to being full of shit as everybody else, including me. When I'm full of shit, people call me out on it, and I change it so I'm once again empty of shit. If I find myself again at some future point full of shit again, then I will replace that shit with non-shit so I'm once again empty of shit. Want to suck my ads? Yes. Where are they? I want to suck them. If you've been psychotic, you've seen things before they happen a lot. This world's a damn lie. I mean, I've spent some time with somebody who's psychotic. It was an interesting couple of days, let me tell you. I know, Dave Sanderson. When I make the president channel, which I will shortly, it'll be, obviously the videos are going to look different than they do here, I have a premonition that I'm going to have to poo pretty soon. What do you think? You think my premonition is going to come true? Yes, I am running for president in 2024. Shazor Khan. I was going to run in 2020, but situation with my mom basically precluded it. She got sicker and sicker, and I had to start helping my dad take care of her first remotely. Like, I lived in Laverne, and I'd come pick her up and give him a day off or two because he was kind of taking care of her by. Now, my mom's not dead; she's in a nursing home though now. So anyway, then I had to move back here to help him take care of her, and we took care of her until my dad decided. Until my dad decided that it was just too much work for us anymore, and we put her in a nursing home. She's fully dementiaed out at this point. Like she can't go to the bathroom by herself. She can't feed herself or carry on a conversation or anything like that. So it's, as I was talking about it earlier in the stream, it's a tough reality because of the fact that she's still here and gone at the same time, right? It's like, as a TI tool user, I want her to either be dead or normal. It may sound bipolar, but I had a dream the other night of my mom coming home to the house and, saying like, I'm home, and it being like I was when I lived there as a teenager, and I woke up really sad. But fortunately, I don't stay sad for very long. It didn't really stick, I may have mentioned it in a previous stream, but the other night I woke up. It was the morning, because when I popped up, it was fairly light outside, not maybe all the way light. But I was having this dream where I walked over here to this door, and it was closed. This door that you can see that's open here. You see that banister out there, right? So I walked over to that door, and it was closed, and I opened it slowly because I had heard something, and I looked outside, and it was dark like it is now outside, rather than how it actually was at the time, which is not that dark. But and as I open it up, I see there's a crouching humanoid figure on the white banister right there. And I literally woke up shouting, "Ah!" like that, like bolting upright. Ah! It was such a scary dream. It was so scary. And the thing is, it was such a short dream too. It was like I was dreaming that I was in bed. I heard something. I heard something. I heard something that made me want to check to see what was out. What's that sound out there? And then when I slowly opened the door, I saw that figure crouching on the banister in the dark, like this. It was so scary. I can't remember another time where I literally bolted upright shouting, like I woke up going, "Ah!" It's because I had been watching Dorohedoro right before I went to sleep, I think, which is this show full of demons and devils and stuff. As president, are there certain policies you would like to focus on? Yeah. As a general rule, I'd like to repair and clarify our foreign policy standing with a lot of different interests. So I think the United States, now she's all the way in there in the house, in the big house. I'm outside. What time is it? Oh, it's almost midnight. I probably should be quiet for this. Well, even the neighbors are pretty far away, but So yeah, there are things that I want to address. I think we need to clarify our stance on Taiwan. I think that's rather important in terms of sort of the assorted militarisms that we have ourselves entangled in. Right. I want to make clear that who our allies are and what it means to be part of the West. You know, the united free West, because we have genuine threats from organized totalitarian underhanded kind of attacks happening to us. You know, Russia would love to see the mores of a free society fall by the wayside. Would love to see free expression cease to be a universal norm, so that he could arrest Pussy Riot and put them to death without having to incur any international outrage, you know? So I think one of the jobs of the United States historically has been to talk about at least the moral agenda. I don't like the idea of the US being global hegemon. I think hegemony is bad. But I like much less the idea of China being the global hegemon or of Russia being the global hegemon. And we need to talk seriously about what comprises where our bright lines are. So are we going to let Taiwan and Hong Kong fall to China because they're slow boiling us? Or are we going to do something about it? And if so, what are we going to do? That's an important question. The thing is, half-assing our approach as we currently are is not doing anything. There's been no president to meaningfully address the question publicly. Do I think that it's unfair that the starting age of president is 35? No, I don't. The only people it's unfair to are people who die before they're 35. So, starting with foreign policy, I really think it's important to sort of clarify for the world what's going on right now. You know, what's really offensive? In China, they don't have a White History Month. It's all Chinese history or world history. I am so offended by that. It's like, what are they, racist? Teaching about their Chinese history. What about me? Right now, I'm Native American. I'm a Cherokee. I need to be included in China's history too. But separate, okay? I need a separate category because I'm not actually part of China's history, right? I guess that must be what we think about Black people. It's like, the thing is, the we includes the Black people, right? So that's what makes the whole thing ridiculous. So additionally, I'd like to see us largely withdraw from the Middle East while acknowledging the fact that we can't just go make a mess and then say, that was a bad idea. Sorry, we're leaving now. Clean up after us. We can't really do that. Yeah, I know China is unironically one of the most racist countries in the world. My point is the ridiculous standards that people hold in a vacuum, right? People make ridiculous claims like the United States is becoming a totalitarian state, ignoring that we have examples of actual totalitarian states to look at, America, regardless of these COVID policies, has not become North Korea, has not become China. I can talk about this stuff successfully on the internet and not get arrested or even get a strike. Why can I talk about it? But the thing is, it is true that there are people out there who are spreading, who aren't as good as I am at talking, who say stupid ass shit and get themselves like banned from YouTube or whatever. And my position is they shouldn't really get banned from YouTube, but I also understand that people are very susceptible to disinformation. So back in the day, I might very well, if I had been around at the time and I had been hanging out with those people, I would have been so into probably the Discordians. But since I live in the contemporary world and I get to see how information actually flies around and does stuff, I hate the Discordians. The Discordians have made up the Illuminati as a joke, basically an NETI joke. Hey, we're, as mappers, we can kind of create the reality will become what we map it to be. We're like sorcerers. We're the Discordians. We're going to make up the Illuminati. I'm still to this day explaining why that's bullshit to people. So it's like I'm the one who, this is the problem. Regardless of whether they intended it as a joke or a meta joke, it turned out to be disinformation that people believed. Okay, fine. Horse mumbler, fine. I accept that when I said Russia, I should have said Putin. Okay? I concede that. I concede that I'm talking about Putin's Russia. I'm not talking about Russia, the nation. Yeah, the Discordians invented the Illuminati as some kind of meta joke about their own ability to construct realities out of nothing. Oh, hey, he's a spite monkey. How much do you imagine is too much, Michael? How much Adderall do you think I've taken today? Are you sure I've taken Adderall today? Oh, that's right. You're just filled with an unrelenting, spiteful, obsession with me, huh? You totally are. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, men like gods. BHM, it means Black History Month. Oh, so yeah. Michael Horton, if you wanted to critique what I'd said in an intelligent way, you would have critiqued what I had said. Right? So either you're spiteful or dumb. You choose. Or both. Which would you like to be? Spiteful, dumb, or both? Because remember, I was saying words that meant things. I wasn't just making noises with my mouth. You could have responded to those words, right? No, the Discordians are not on Discord. The Discordians are a group from quite a long time ago. It was like their late 60s, early 70s, something like that. Some type policing stuff. Will you criticize me? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. What's the relevance in any of this to what? Relevance links to something else, definitionally. So relevant to what? Or to whom? That's my aquarium taking a piss in the back. Actually, Michael Hortman. Michael Hortman's mom is blowing me again. I was once a card-carrying pope of the Irician Church. Because it's the same fucker that always comes around. There's at least one person, and it may be a couple of different people, but I'll get to what's dumb about BHM again for the millionth time in a second, Craig Garcia. But let me first address this person who hates me so much. So Michael Hortman is the same person who has come in multiple times the last few days talking about about me, making ad hominem attacks on me, basically, saying I ought to be invalidated because of things that aren't relevant to anything, you know. So the funny thing is, this person is he must spend a lot of time in total on making new accounts to come in here and say the same things again, right? Which are, he's going to reduce me for what? Why is there a remove message anymore? Oh, I guess because Winston Mom already deleted it. That's why. Why is this even a stream? Like, are you ignorant? It's called Black History Month, people. I know it's Black History Month is obviously deeply offensive because anybody who self-identifies as Black is going to find it both condescending, belittling, reductive, and as though they're being treated like the special little brown group who needs special little month for themselves. Nobody wants to be treated like that. So obviously it's extremely racist and offensive to participate in Black History Month. Whoa, Paul, is this for views? I mean, I oppose groupism of all sorts, including racism, so I oppose Black History Month. You cannot be serious. You must be a troll, right? That's got to be a troll, yeah? No Pauls allowed. Sorry. No Pauls allowed. But, you know, it's always possible that Lemon Lime OT9 is genuinely not a troll because this topic is somewhat provocative and it could bring that kind of response in. But, you know, first of all, Black History Month is for Black folks. According to whom? Why would you conclude that it's for Black folks? So, you know, I'm racially fluid. I'm fluidly transracial. So my race changes periodically. Sometimes I become Black. If I become Black during Black History Month, I get really angry because it's so offensive and racist, you know? Liar. Said no Black person ever. Have you ever had anybody come up to you who self-identified as Black, who said Black History Month meant a lot to them? Yeah, I do. I'm fluidly transracial. So I transition from race to race arbitrarily. Just like race itself is arbitrary. You forgot. I would have forgotten it was Black History Month as well, except for the fact that there was this strange icon next to YouTube's icon in YouTube today. It said BHM. And I was like, what is this? Did YouTube get bought by a company called BHM or something? Finally, Rachel explained to me it stood for Black History Month. I was like, are you kidding me? Is YouTube participating in this wicked racist nonsense? I can't believe this has become normalized to this fashion. It's like people just aren't thinking, you know? If you think at all, you recognize how condescending, belittling, reductive, and divisive something like Black History Month is. I mean, I've been Black plenty of times. I've been Black lots of times. I've been every race. You know, when I'm an Inuit, I refer to myself as an Inuit. When I'm a Canadian, I refer to Inuits as Eskimos. That's how it works. That's how race works, okay? When I'm a Spaniard, I think the Portuguese talk wrong. When I'm a Portugal person, I think the Spaniards talk wrong. That's how it works. That's race. When I'm Chinese, I get karate. That's how it works. Don't tell me karate's Japanese. I'm the Chinese one. You don't know, racist. Stop being so racist. Right. This is Black seating section. Can you imagine Black seating section? I know, Craig Garcia. It may just be unique to me that it's the only race that I get some special power. When I'm Chinese, I get Japanese karate for some reason. Well, yeah, that's why I say it may be unique to me. Maybe a unique kind of fluke of my transracial identity. That when I'm Chinese, I get Japanese karate. When I'm Japanese, I don't get any kind of karate. It's kind of a bum deal being Japanese in that regard. Although I do have a sudden odd fixation for my sister. Have you noticed in anime the weird brother-sister relationships? Do Japanese people have weird relationships with their siblings or what? There's always seems to be this weird, some storyline in a lot of animes will involve a weird kind of sexual energy between a brother and a sister. Thanks, Not Cloud. Appreciate it. We have Black History Month, and we have Black seating section, Black schooling section. I mean, if you apply it at all, if you check it at all against a universal standard, you realize, oh, that's just segregationist bullshit dressed up as something friendly, right? It's as clear as day. You think Japanese people just like pervy cartoons, to be honest? I like their pervy cartoons a lot too. I don't necessarily like the pervy parts of them, although sometimes it's more well done than others. There are some cartoons that have too much TNA in them, and I find that distracting. Like I'm trying to watch my cartoon here. I don't want to keep thinking about opening up an incognito browser window. So I like a certain amount of it if it's sort of stylized and referential. I know I'm not talking about hentai. I'm talking about regular non-pornographic animes that nevertheless have lots of TNA in them, you know, that isn't quite fully unclothed. That's everything from Naruto to Fire Force to like almost all of them got your big titted girl who wears clothes that would never stay in place on a real human being, right? Like there's no way that shirt would continue to cover her nipples as she moves around in the real world. She'd have to have it like super glued there or something. Like they have shirts that go like this, right? Pew, just cover the nipple and then show all the rest of the boob, but it never slips off the nipple. Right. So I don't want too much sexuality. Right. But you see how when people run afoul of my approach to it, the way I say this to them, they tend to stop pushing back, right? You've seen it on a few occasions here tonight. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Oh, you're actually not racist. Oh, okay. I thought you were, but no, I see you're not. And then at some point they process what I've actually said too. What they take away from it, who knows? That depends on the individual. But you've seen how powerful it is tonight. Here I am. Come and get me. I'm saying Black History Month is dumb. Nobody's made any progress. Not that there have been a lot of people trying. There have been a couple. Well, I mean, people who are scared to engage with what I'm saying before they downvote. I mean, obviously, if they don't listen to me at all, then I can't control their opinions. If they just vote based on the title without actually listening to what I say at all, then I can't manage their perspective on me. And that's fine. Because, it's like they're not basing it on anything legitimate. So as a consequence, it doesn't matter what their opinion is. I believe that's called the Poning. The Poning Pyramid. Alex, what you guys? The Pyramid of Ponage. Name it properly, please. That's the Pyramid of Ponage you're referring to. It's the Ponage version of the food pyramid that used to explain how you needed this amount of meat and this amount of cereal and this amount of meat. Someone's peeking through my windsill. No one's peeking through my windsill. That windsill is actually quite high up. You'd have to be probably a little taller than me to peek in through there without standing on your tiptoes. I'd probably have to stand on my tiptoes to peek through that window there. Yeetsicle. I like the name Yeetsicle. What is dumb about Black History Month? Well, what's dumb about it is it's incredibly condescending, racist, and offensive to imagine that the people who self-identify as Black ought to be treated as some sort of special brown group that needs special month because they're not part of history in general. They are just a little special people who need special treatment. If I were identifying as Black this month, I would be extremely offended by it. As it is, I'm identifying as East Pacific Asian Islander, and I'm still super offended by it. It's super dumb and offensive. It's like a way that we've officially conferred inferior status via pity or something. It's so condescending. Today we're learning about George Washington Carver. You know, it's like, fuck you. Fuck you, children's history teacher. Yeah, that's interesting that it does seem to be an effective title. The thing is you might say, well, Eric, did you put this title up because you thought it was going to be successful? Like it was going to draw on a lot of controversy or something? I actually thought the opposite. I thought if I put this title up, YouTube, there's no way YouTube's going to recommend this video. So I thought. I mean, I'm a long-time opponent of police brutality, far preceding the Black Lives Matter movement. I was strongly opposed to the real problem, which is not cops killing too many black people, but cops having protocols that permitted them to functionally get away with murder on nothing. In other words, the way that the judicial system dealt with police officers' acts of violence was fundamentally flawed and guaranteed to produce injustice almost every occasion. And this is what I objected to strongly for years and years and years, until unfortunately some racists co-opted the proper movement against what's called limited immunity. So judges and prosecutors have absolute immunity. Cops have limited immunity, and what that means is they can't be held culpable for some of their actions. And I'm deeply opposed to certain aspects of the way that the law is currently interpreted, because they basically justify a cop killing anybody who doesn't immediately follow all their orders. It used to be like that. Now it's not like that anymore because people freaked out so much about it finally. But the thing is, I stopped worrying about it once everybody else started freaking out about it, until I realized, oh, fuck, racists have co-opted this thing. It's like, if you make it Black Lives Matter, then unavoidably, you're going to create this weird misframing that works in the cops' favor. Because now all of a sudden, the problem is not the cops are illegally killing people, it's that they're racist. You can train away racism, right? You just have to make cops less racist, and the problem will go away. It doesn't matter what BLM is advocating. The fact that BLM is the advocate has turned this thing into a blank check for police officers to get away with whatever. And the excuse means is they need more training. Right? Because if you ignore what the actual problem is, rights violation, somebody's rights were violated by this cop who killed him unnecessarily. Then we're talking about something real. And if we're talking about what race either of the people were, we're talking about something totally irrelevant to the problem. Yo, yeah, but Eric, I mean, look at the numbers, the disparities in the number of arrests and shit. Well, number of deaths. That's because people do stupid shit like pay attention to race. For years, cops have gotten away with murder. And what have they said? Well, we need more training. Why have they gotten away with that? Because people have allowed themselves to be frame-walked by the police department into thinking there was nothing wrong with the fundamental legal approach here, but rather that there was something wrong with the way the police department was doing things. The thing that was wrong was not the way the police department was doing things. It's the way the courts were doing things. The courts were encouraging the police to do this shit by approaching cases involving police officers differently than cases involving regular citizens. That's the problem. If you're talking about race, you're helping the bad guys perpetrate the problem. So that's what makes me so angry about things like Black Lives Matter and Black History Month, is that they fool people into doing extremely harmful and racist kind of talking and pretend that they're not. They're doing the opposite. You're confused by what guy? Me? Sean Hudson? You're confused by me? I mean, you didn't hear what I said or what? What words didn't you understand? I mean, anytime you try to address a problem that's based on an actual crime by talking about the mental state of the person, you're missing the point. Thank you. It's my peachy folder shirt. I would agree that Trump is an idiot. You're going to get no argument from me there. Trump is the nightmare that happens when an ESFP becomes president. Here we go again. Why is BHM dumb? Boy, I guess if that's what you make the title, you're going to have to keep on talking about it, huh? Well, because it's condescending. I've said this so many times now. It's condescending, it's racist, it's reductive, and it treats individuals who identify as Black as though they need to have a special like kids table, right? And so it's super offensive. Whenever I identify as Black during February, and because I'm fluidly transracial, so I change races a lot, I get really offended. But I'm still offended regardless of my race, but it's extra offensive in that instance. You're banned, Caleb McFarland. Hide that person from the channel. Stupid racists are not welcome. Good, thank you. The thing is, you hear ugly ass boy, I stand for it. You stand for BHM. So you enjoy, are you racist against people who self-identify as Black? You like to condescend to them and treat them as lesser and inferior, as though they're not part of the general history, but rather need a special kids table because you don't like Black people? Oh, you're just kidding. Okay. So, Make America Great Again, yeah, says, I'm Black and white, but my genes, I look like a white girl. When you're wearing jeans, you look like a white girl. But when you're not, you look like something else. That's interesting. I've not heard of anybody being trans appearanceal before. Like, I'm transracial, but my appearance doesn't change, you know? No, I don't identify as all races. I only identify as one race. It just changes from day to day. I'm never more than 100% of one race. I'm never less than 100% of one race. Well, unless I'm in the middle of changing from, like, say, Mexican to Canadian or something. I feel it's important to open up. I mean, if we're going to talk about race and racial identity and what that means, I need to be honest about my own racial identity. I do have a racial identity. I am fluidly transracial. I mean, the thing about being fluidly transracial, of course, as I mentioned before, is it makes 23andMe completely useless. Every time I send in my saliva or whatever to get a DNA, I get back 100% yeah. And it's always a different yeah. So that's the problem with that. What is on my shirt? So this is kind of a shirt that tests if you're over 40 or not, kind of. If you're over 40, you recognize these things from school, probably. I'm 49, and when I went to middle school, there were really two options you had in middle school for folders. You either went with the Peaches or you went with the Trapper Keeper, okay? So, did I already talk about my shirt? I have in a previous live stream, not today, I haven't. But, it may have been mentioned, but I didn't talk about it. So these folders, what makes them good is that instead of the pocket being vertical, the pocket's horizontal. So when you turn it upside down, your papers don't fall out of it. Leaf Trimmer, I am not going to answer that question again for you. Okay. You can just watch part of the live stream. I've answered it so many goddamn times. It's ridiculous. How long are you going to let the beard get? I'm going to cut my hair probably tomorrow. I'm in the middle of doing a bunch of sort of prep stuff for well, horse mumbler, it's about context, it's a discretionary thing, not a rule thing. And this does bring back the topic of matters that require discretion versus matters that require rules. So if you think about people who make arguments about determinism, they were likely to say, think of 3 cities, and then they'll point out the fact that you may have thought of more than 3 cities and chosen which 3 to say, but you didn't have any choice in which you thought of, right? So therefore, determinism. Of course, that's true about knowledge functions. If I ask you to know something, if I prompt you to know, then there's no discretion involved in knowledge. It's a reflexive receiving of information. So there's no choice involved in it. But there is discretion involved in other kinds of attention, specifically action. Whether or not, if I give you a long math problem to solve, whether or not you choose to solve it is a matter of your discretion. Whether or not you solve it correctly is a matter of your competency. Chess is a sport. I call it a sport. It's a competition, zero-sum competition game that people play like in events that get some amount of attention from viewers or something, I call it a sport. I call debate a sport. Debate functions the same way as a sport does for students who participate in it. No, Monopoly is not a sport, but the reason is because there aren't really Monopoly tournaments, I don't think. If there were Monopoly tournaments, then at that point it would become essentially a sport. So with debate, when you get all the kids to go compete in a given location, and then they have, preliminary rounds, they're like heats. And then depending on how you do in the preliminary rounds, you advance to the elimination rounds. And the elimination rounds, it's like tennis, right? One-on-one. If you win, you advance. If you lose, you go home. So it's in every regard meaningfully a sport, except it's not physical. The thing is, it plays tournament-wise like a competition zero-sum tournament would. So in that regard, it plays out the same as a sport in terms of the competition aspects to it. In terms of a coach is extremely different from a teacher. If you coach football, then you are judged on your results. If you teach history, then you are judged on your lack of problem causing. Do I have to do it again, Oliver Linehan? Well, because not all sports are in the Olympics. That's why. They do have a lot of weird sports in the Olympics, but not all sports are in the Olympics. For example, Frisbee golf isn't in the Olympics. If it were, I still wouldn't be able to medal in it, even close. I'm not a very good Frisbee golf player. But I'm better at Frisbee golf than, say, the butterfly. Doing the butterfly in a swimming pool, you know? BHM is recognizing the race-related achievements made by Black people in the past, not patronizing Black people today. Not to sound pretentious, but I forget the word you used. I said it was condescending. I mean, it's definitely the case that if you say Black History Month is needed, then apparently Black history doesn't qualify as significant enough to be included in regular history. That's definitely a meaning that ought to be inferred from that. Additionally, even if you yourself, Crimson Shadow, self-identify as Black and support the idea, that's your reaction to this, what I perceive as condescension. Other people who self-identify as Black may have a very different response to it. If you don't self-identify as Black, then why would you have a position on whether or not it's condescending to Black people? Now, I do self-identify as Black some of the time. Not right now, though. So, in other words, Black history is American history. It might have been needed at a time years ago, but it's no longer needed these days. Yeah, if you want to say, look, we're fine with a society that has some racism and we're just going to mitigate it, then fine. Okay. We want to reinforce racism, but mitigate some of the harms of it. Well, then that's exactly what you're doing with Black History Month. You're reinforcing racism. Race is inherently divisive because it's arbitrary. And it links to all sorts of other identity things. So, it's like that's how it is. Remember that functionally, race served one purpose in American history, and that was to justify rights violations against individuals. So, any talk about race having any impact on how we do things, for example, that we should change how we teach history in the month of February because of race, or any other sort of thing about race, is reinforcing the fundamental mistake that we made in the first place, which was to believe race was actually a thing. Race is not a real thing. Race is bullshit. Race is arbitrary. Nobody can answer the question, how many races are there, or how do we distinguish between them? So there you go. I don't care. I don't care if I get more down votes or up votes. I would be concerned if I heard a good argument. The best argument I've heard so far is Crimson Shadow's argument, I think, was the most well-articulated one. I think perhaps this is a more interesting argument. A sense of empathy and personally feeling condescended to are different. So, in other words, you're interpreting Black History Month through the frame of somebody who has not suffered indignities, showing respect for somebody who has suffered indignities, right? Is that right? Stop trying to tell me I've suffered indignities just because I'm Black. Stop trying to make me a victim. I don't like it. It's offensive. It's that simple. When it comes to bone marrow transplants, race matters. I mean, when it comes to lots of transplants, having a matching donor matters. It's not the case that matching donors are always the same race. So, for the people who come here assuming they're going to disagree with me and who listen to me, they either don't thumbs down or potentially thumbs up. But if for people who, so how many races are there when they're doing the bone transplant, marrow transplants? Remember? How many races are there? When you say it matters for bone transplants, it means only, Canadians can only get Canadian bone transplants. Indian, Chinese, Malaysian, Japanese, white, Caucasian, black, those are races. I mean, maybe. Nobody really knows. I can read it again. Jones 2015C. This is pretty straightforward stuff. It's pretty obvious, pretty clear cut. People have different complexions, but that's a far different thing from saying that people with different complexions actually comprise races of people. Scientists have certainly tried for a long time to prove that there are different races, and it's all been disproven. It's bunk. Today, we even understand that there is more genetic diversity within the so-called races than between them. The anthropologist Carol Mukabadati writes about how things that we think of as demonstrating a biological basis of race are just not true. Quote, in the United States, the sickle cell gene is more common among African Americans than in other populations, but is not a racial gene. The genetic variation that causes it is also found in parts of South Asia, Southern Europe, and the Middle East, and is only found in some parts of Africa. When we turn to the racial category Black, Africa has hundreds, if not thousands, of linguistically, culturally, politically, and historically distinct populations. Africa is home to the shortest and the tallest people in the world. Other traits vary significantly, including skin color, nose shape, eye shape, overall body shape, even the frequency of sickle cell and lactose intolerance. The problem with Americans' folksy way of defining who's who based on skin color is that skin color is not a discrete trait. There's a spectrum, a gradation of skin colors, and marking off at an arbitrary point at which to say somebody is paler than this is one thing, and someone darker than that is another thing, is not a naturally occurring division between people. That should make it pretty clear, right? That should make it pretty clear that Black History Month is someone's attempt to confer inferiority onto an individual somewhere who self-identifies as a member of this group. It's pretty obvious now. It's like it's hard to defend, right? Once you realize this stuff, it's really hard to defend this incredibly offensive racist institution called Black History Month. Now, look, the other thing to remember is a message that was sent to us long ago by South Park. It is really important to remember this because being an activist is totally gay. Okay? Being an activist is totally gaff. It's like, ew, disgusting. Stop with your agenda-driven bullshit. You know? Raising awareness. Because being an activist is totally gay. It's like, what? Can we accept this? Not homosexual, not into. I have no problem with homosexuals at all. I also don't have a problem with using the word gay to mean things are bad, but I try to avoid it these days because of YouTube. So I try to say GAF instead, which is GAF. Black Lives Matter. Oh, so you're a racist scumbag, huh? Who's co-opted a perfectly legitimate movement against police brutality and given them a textbook excuse. Oh, I just need more racial sensitivity training. I don't need to be arrested or punished or anything. Thanks, BLM. Thanks for your fucking racist stupidity. Thanks for giving the cops a free pass. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Little Scott Rocky. Fucking idiot. You don't co-opt a legitimate movement about actual rights violations with irrelevant race shit if you don't want to give the cops an excuse to get away with it forevermore. Be smart. I battled cop violence before anybody would ever heard of Black Lives Matter. I was ranting about it on Facebook, how cops were getting away with murder all over the country. And the reason for it is not because they were racist. The reason for it was because of limited immunity that is afforded to cops and the way that's played out judicially in the courts, such that courts set the bar for finding a cop guilty of murder so high, or of any crime, frankly, so high that obviously sickening injustice was being done in the courts as the cops were being found innocent of clear and undeniable murders. That's a real fucking problem. That's a real fucking problem, little Scott Rocky. Is cops getting away with murder is a real problem. Guess what's not a real problem? Yeah, qualified immunity. Thank you. Not limited, qualified. Guess what's not a problem? Cops being racist. Now, what is a problem is disparages in arrest rates. So is it true that Black people are arrested at a disproportionate rate for drug crimes? Absolutely. And what's the problem there? Is it the racism of the cops? No. The problem is the laws are constructed so they allow discretionary policing. The problem is if you have crimes that are not perpetrated against people or property, then you have discretionary policing. That is to say, if a cop pulls over a couple of harmless looking upper middle class kids in the park with their drugs, he says, well, I don't want to ruin their future and they're going to college and they're not dangerous people. So I'll let them go. And then he picks up a couple of people in a less nice neighborhood and all of a sudden he goes, well, they're dangerous people, so I'm going to take them in. Now what's happened? That now you've explained discrepancies in arrest rates for drug crimes. Okay. Are the cops racist? Possibly. Is that the problem? No. If we talk about the cops' racism, are we going to solve the problem? No, we're going to make it worse. Yeah, my bad, Horse Mumbler. Thank you. I was saying the wrong word like several times before I caught myself. Okay, well, listen. Oppression was most prevalent in history. Recognizing that doesn't associate Black or white people with the people in our history. So by recognizing this, you aren't being condescending to Blacks. So then why does it only get... If in fact Black people are integrated into our history in whole, whether in good ways or bad, then why do we segregate them into a separate month and ignore them the rest of the year? You know, it's like if you say you are in favor of Black History Month, as was indicated earlier, then you must also be in favor of Black seating section. If you think Black Lives Matter is a good idea, then you should also be in favor of let's see. You should be in favor of any number of crazy, ridiculous, irrelevant things, right? If the thing to remember is this, what's most important is that we have the right reasons for our positions. It's more important than having the right positions. So the problem with Black Lives Matter is the same problem with Black History Month. They may be well-intentioned, but because they set the wrong frame, they always come to whatever conclusion they come to for the wrong reasons. And so that's a strange one to link. Compton better stop barking. I like that song, but that certainly is an interesting one to link. Compton was the name of my dog. We bought her in Compton. That's why we named her Compton. Listen, everybody out there, I want to explain. Anybody or everybody can and should rap. It's very easy. I'm going to give you the lesson right now. To rap successfully, the first thing you need to do is state what your name is and that you are here to say something. So, for example, I'm host Eric and I'm here to say, like that, okay? And then you have to say something that rhymes with say. So, like, for example, I'm going to have a very good day. So a proper rhyme couplet then would be something like, I'm host Eric and I'm here to say, I'm going to have a very good day. Okay, that's how you rap. That's all there is to it. It's as simple as that. You could be the best rapper in the world if you just follow that lesson. It's just that easy. Whatever did happen to Criss Cross? Criss Cross is going to make you, right? You know what I'm saying? Criss Cross is going to make you. Wrapping paper is an instrument of Satan. So you mean in Satan's Symphony Orchestra, he's got present rappers? Who has all those things? Islamophobia test? Well, I mean, my point is that race is inherently, the only thing that race does is it's that while some people do self-identify as a race, that the primary impact of race is something that I confer onto you to limit your ability to be a full individual and force you to be understood through this arbitrary frame of reference called race that I've conferred onto you, right? So I think that's almost always how race plays out, right? It's someone is reducing the individual, the complex individual, into their understanding of that individual's group. That's bad. Right. Black Lives Matter is obviously divisive, and it steals the legitimacy of the victimhood from all the victims of cop violence that weren't black, that didn't self-identify as black. There are shit tons of people who don't self-identify as black who have been victimized by police violence. Why do we exclude them? You know, how about citizens? You know, cops are citizens too. That would be a good motto for it. If you ever hear a cop refer to human beings in their neighborhood as civilians, they are under the wrong frame of reference. They are citizens too. They are not an occupying fucking army. We are not civilians. We are citizens, and so are they. We're equal in our fundamental citizenship, right? So that it's like I burst into tears one day when I was listening to the radio, and I was hearing this very sad story about this shooting in Texas of some police officers. But it didn't make me cry until I heard one of the police officers, you know, speak in noble terms about defending the civilians. Because it's like, oh my God, what has happened to civics? What has happened to civics? Don't people understand that civilians are people subject to an occupying army? They are not police officers engaging with their fellow citizens, should not be referring to them as civilians. It's like there's a lack of thinking, right? There's a failure to set the frames up properly ahead of time. Before you become a police officer, you should understand that. Before anybody is ever permitted to become a police officer, They should understand what their job is. So, no, I mean, I don't think there should be more equal and overall recognition everywhere for everybody. I'm saying individuals shouldn't confer onto others identities that aren't of those people. In other words, I shouldn't presume to know what race you are. I should ask you if I want to know, if I care for some reason. I shouldn't presume that because of how KD looks, that they're race Z or something, you know? I mean, thanks, David Sanderson. I appreciate it. I am fair and objective and straightforward. I'm consistent in my positions on these things too. I'm not just being controversial. In fact, like I said, I didn't think this was going to be very well attended at all because I figured YouTube would not promote it at all. No one like you. Is that the song you're talking about, Katie? I had a Scorpions phase. Sure. I'm not going to admit it. I'm not going to deny it. Oh, you know what I should do right now? Since we're having this fun conversation about race, I should play that song by Merle Haggard. I should play that song by Merle Haggard and then play my cover of Fuck the Police. I think that might be fun. In this regard, I do take a great deal of glee in my tweaking people's noses, I guess, you know. I like to be totally no, you will not box me, right? So that's why I do things like this. Like I'll play I'm a White Boy by Merle Haggard, and then I'll play a cover of Fuck the Police by NWA. Just to make clear that no, you can't box me. I play this one much better, I'm sure, because actually I played it many times before. It's got real chords to it and stuff. Well, some folk call me a rambling man. I do a lot of thumbing and a kicking can. And I wouldn't do an answer good to call me names. Cause daddy's name was Willie Woodrow. I was born and raised in no ghetto, just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. This is super out of tune. Hold on. Some folk call me a rambling man, cause I do a lot of thumbing and a kicking can. And it wouldn't do an ounce of good to call me names. Cause daddy's name wasn't Willie Woodrow. I wasn't born and raised in no ghetto, just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. Well, I might find me a wealthy woman in a line of work that don't take no diploma. I ain't got much to lose, but lost the game. Some might call me a good time fella, cause I ain't no black and I ain't no yellow. I'm just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. Cause I don't want no handout living, don't want any darling anything they're giving. I'm proud and white and I've got a song to sing. But I said a few things and all admit it. If you wanna get it, you gotta own and get it. I'm a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. I'm a small town boy, been around a little, and I like guitars and I like the fiddle, and that's the kind of soul that expand my flame. Well, I'm a blue-eyed Billy, kind of feared and ready, so I'll have to work just to be somebody. I'm a wild boy looking for a place to do my thing. Well, I don't want no handouts, never don't want any part of anything they're giving. I'm proud and white, and I've got a song to sing. Well, I said a few things, and I'll admit it. If you want to get a hit, you gotta hump and get it. I'm a wild boy looking for a place to do my thing. Just a wild boy looking for a place to do my thing. Now, what I'm going to do is play for you my improvised cover of Fuck the Police. I've not really tried to play the song before, but I'm going to try right now, okay? Because after all, right about now, NWA is in full effect. Full effect. Why don't you tell them what the fuck you got to say? I say, fuck the police, coming straight from the underground. Young nigga got it bad cause I'm brown and not the other color, or so police think they have the authority to kill a minority. Fuck that shit cause I ain't the one for a punk motherfucker with a badge and a gun to be beaten on and thrown in jail. We can go toe to toe in the middle of a cell, yeah. Fucking with me cause I'm a teenager with a little bit of gold and a pager. Searching my car, looking for the product, thinking every nigger is selling narcotics. You'd rather see me in the pen than me in Lorenzo, rolling in the benzo. Beat a police out of shape, and when I'm finished, bring the yellow tape to tape off the scene of the slaughter. Still getting swole off of bread and water. I don't know if the fags are what search a nigga down and grabbing his nuts. On the other hand, without a gun they can't get none, but don't let it be a black and a white one, cause they'll slam you down to the street top. Black police looking out for the white cops. But don't worry, because Ice Cube will swarm over any motherfucker in a blue uniform. And just cause I'm from the CPT, yeah, the punk police are afraid of me. I'm a young nigger on a warpath, and when I'm finished, it's gonna be a bloodbath of cops dying in LA. Yo, Dre, I got something to say. I said, fuck the police, yeah, fuck the police, fuck the police, fuck the police, fuck the police, oh, fuck the police. Pull your goddamn ass over right now. Yeah, fuck the police, friend, said it with authority, cause the niggas on the street is a majority. A gang is whoever if I'm stepping. Motherfucker weapon is kept in the stash spot for the so-called law, wishing it was a nigga that they never saw. Lights start flashing behind me, but they're scared of a nigger, so they mace me to blind me. There's a lot of lyrics to this. Wow. It's quite a long song. You gotta get down to Easy E part. Easy E, won't you step up to the stand and tell the jury how you feel about this bullshit? I will. Here we go. I'm tired of the motherfucking jack-in. Sweating my guy while I'm chilling in the shotgun, shining the light in my face, and for what? Maybe it's because I kick so much butt, I kick ass. Maybe because I blast on a stupid ass nigga when I'm playing with the trigger of an Uzi or an AK. The police always got something stupid to say. To put my picture up well with silence, because my identity causes violence. The E with the criminal behavior. Yeah, I'm a gangster. But still I got flavor and a super high voice that makes me sound like a 12-year-old boy when I rap. Well, there you have it. That's my cover of Fuck the Police. Preceded immediately by, of course, my cover of I'm a White Boy. So I like to ha-cha-cha-cha-cha toss up your salad in that fashion. No, I'm not going to toss your salad. Not in that way. Don't have a dirty mind, okay? Fucking with me because I'm a teenager with a little bit of gold and a pager? Fuck the police. Fuck the police. Well, I did the best I could, Ghostwriter. You want a mammy? I played both their songs as well as I could at the moment, which I agree. I didn't really kill either of them, you know. All right, talk to y'all later. Don't forget to eat plain cheese.